Guys, welcome back to another video. So we have some updates, some new stuff that I want to go over. First of all, we'll start off here with some Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition stuff. So if you remember, at the European Commission, Brad Smith came out, talked about the 150 million more people that are going to be able to play Call of Duty if this deal goes through, and basing that off of offering the deals to Nintendo and Nvidia GeForce. Now, there's some questions. Where are these numbers coming from? Where does 150 million more people getting access to Call of Duty coming from? Specifically, we have Christopher Dring here who's asking this question. As you know, Christopher Dring is the head of GameIndustry.biz. And he says, I completely understand the sentiment, but I'd love to know where Xbox is getting the Call of Duty for 150 million more players number from. I have asked, and he got some replies here in the comments. You have Tom Warren saying, it's the number of 122 plus million Switch consoles and 25 million registered GeForce Now players that could potentially access Call of Duty on those devices. It's about potential access, not active players. So the TAM, or I believe it means total addressable market, resulting from the Nvidia and Nintendo deal. And then Christopher Dring responds to that, yeah, but I find it unnecessary. It assumes all 150 million are individual people, are all of the right age, and all don't have access to a Call of Duty playing device already. The core argument of more people will be able to play Call of Duty under us is sufficient. So he's questioning the 150 million. Obviously, Microsoft and Xbox are using that as a number to make a point that if this deal does go through, way more people are going to get access to being able to play Call of Duty through multiple different devices. That's one of the main things of this deal that will be good for consumers and good for gamers, is that you're taking a really big IP, a really big game, and you're putting it back onto platforms that it isn't there. Like the Nintendo Switch, it's been gone since the Wii U days with Call of Duty Ghosts. And no matter really how you slice that, whether it reaches 150 million more people or it reaches 10 million or 20 million more people, personally, I think that's a better thing for gamers when more people can actually have access to play these games. Now, we do have this article here from Tweaktown saying that Microsoft clarifies where the 150 million more Call of Duty players figures came from. So the entire press conference with Brad Smith talking to the European Commission has now actually come out. You can go and watch it, the video of him doing his presentation. And in that presentation, here is what he says. And now think about what we did today. Between this morning and this evening, between Nintendo and Nvidia, we are bringing Call of Duty to 150 million more people, to 150 million devices that don't have access to Call of Duty today. That is a future where competition flourishes, where innovation moves forward. And it's been confirmed here with this breakdown from Tweaktown that this is where the number comes from. There's 122.55 million Nintendo Switch owners out there that potentially now could go out and pick up Call of Duty if the deal were to go through. They could go buy the game, and we know that they are making a native version of this game. That's what they had promised in their response to the CMA remedies. It isn't going to be a cloud version of Call of Duty. They specifically say that the Nintendo Switch will get a native version. And then you have the Nvidia GeForce Now members with 25 million. Put that all together equals around 150 million more people that could get access to Call of Duty. So the question here from Christopher Dring, where does the number come from? It has been clarified, and the semantics around whether all 150 million people are the right age and all this type of stuff, they were trying to make a point at the end of the day that Call of Duty gives more access to more people. Now, will 150 million more people go and play Call of Duty? Absolutely not. We know that. There's going to be people that have no interest in playing. There's going to be people that can't afford to go pick it up, that aren't allowed to play it, all of those types of things. That's completely valid. But at the end of the day, more access, more gamers, we're going to be able to jump into the game, which is overall, I think, a good thing for the industry and for the market. Now, the other thing that was talked about with this merger was the use of Nintendo and not actually showing their market share in the EU stuff. They showed off that chart. It said 80% of the market PlayStation, 20% of the market Xbox and Microsoft. And a lot of people asked, where's Nintendo? And they were kind of saying that Microsoft was painting this false picture because they intentionally left out Nintendo. But the reality of the situation is they used arguments that were brought forward by the regulatory bodies, specifically the FTC, that didn't include Nintendo in the same category as PlayStation and as Xbox. And specifically, again, from the video that came out about the entire presentation Brad Smith did, here is what the confirmation says about why they went with the 80% and 20% breakdown between PlayStation and Xbox and did not include Nintendo. Brad Smith says this: think about the market that the Federal Trade Commission defined and what it would mean here in Europe. So specifically mentioning that they are using the FTC market definition, which did not include Nintendo. It is a market in which Sony has an 80% share and Xbox has a 20% share. Globally, the share split is about 70-30. In Japan, it's 96-4 in Sony's favor. And that is just such an insane difference, insane dominance in the market between PlayStation and Xbox, which you expect in Japan. Xbox is not a Japanese company. PlayStation is. PlayStation definitely caters more to that market than Xbox does, but Xbox's goal is to try to grow there. And they lost a lot of market with the Xbox One. They did decent for Xbox for the second generation of a console with the Xbox 360, and they're starting to do a little bit better now with the Xbox Series. What they need to do, obviously, is get into purchasing or working with more Japanese developers, similar to like what they've done with Tango Gameworks, which came with the Bethesda deal. And you can see games like Hi-Fi Rush coming out. I'm sure that will entice more Japanese gamers to go and check out the Xbox ecosystem. But 96-4 right now, just a huge disparity that will be almost impossible for Xbox or Microsoft to ever get close to being in the same market share as PlayStation. Like, I don't think it'll ever get close to like a 50-50 or even like a 60-40, but they definitely have a lot of room to grow. And he continues here and says, and while there are some fluctuations over time, these numbers have been remarkably steady for 2 decades. Even last year when Sony suffered constraints in its supply chain and it saw its numbers dip, they came back strong in the fourth quarter as their supply chain recovered. By our calculations on a global basis, Sony outsold Microsoft in the fourth quarter by a margin of 69-31. This is pretty much consistent with the global market shares we've seen for 20 years. Sony, like regulators, has an alternative as well. It can either do a deal with Microsoft or argue that the deal should be blocked. We understand in some ways it can be tempting when you have an 80% share to just hope the future never arrives, to hold on as long as possible to a current market share, to hope that the future that European game developers have said is cross-platform doesn't come until a later date. Think about this market that exists today. Smith gestures to the 80-20 pie chart. That's that chart that we saw, the poster that everyone was sharing around on social media. It has 120 million consoles, PlayStation and Xbox combined. So there you have it. That's just more context with this entire situation. I mean, this was the conclusion that most people had already come to before this was actually released, but now it is 100% confirmed. They used the FTC definition of the market, which I think is a very smart thing to do because it just shows a much wider gap, a much bigger difference between the two parties without throwing Nintendo in there. That would break up the market a little bit more. But at the end of the day, I mean, PlayStation is extremely dominant in Japan, extremely dominant in the EU. And these regulators right now, it just seems like they're trying to protect the dominant position of PlayStation. This is something that I've talked about in my videos previously, and it's just the reality of the situation. If you're a dominant player in the market, you're going to be dominant for as long as that market continues to operate in that same way. But if you don't ever move with the market, you don't ever adjust to the changes, at some point, it doesn't matter how dominant you are, you're going to lose your market share. You're going to lose the number one position, whether that's in 10 years, whether that's in 20 years, or whether that's in 30 years. There are no companies out there that are too big that if they don't continue to adjust to the market trends, that they will end up failing. And I'm not saying Sony is going to fail. I'm not saying that they're going to be foreclosed. It won't even come close to that. They're still going to be extremely powerful. They're still going to be a market leader in many places. But at the end of the day, what they are scared of right now is having to continue to adjust to the changing trends. They know that they are behind Xbox when it comes to cloud gaming, subscription, and potentially being the leader in 10 years from now. And they're going to have to work extremely hard to get to a point where they're going to compete on the same level as Xbox when it comes to things like Game Pass and cloud gaming. And this deal is going to make it even harder for them, which is why they want to block this deal. They are seeing the writing on the wall right now. They took too long to adjust their business strategy, and this deal is going to make them have to work even harder and faster than they currently have to right now to catch up to the changing market and to where Xbox is taking the market, which again, subscription and cloud gaming. Do I like cloud gaming? I don't use it very much. Do I want to see the market switch all the way to cloud gaming? No, absolutely not. I like having my consoles. I like playing my games natively, but I think this is just the reality of where the gaming industry is going. And then we have this here on Twitter from Senjutsu Sage Hi-Fi Rush. I don't know if I said that perfectly, but it's a good depiction as to showing when Microsoft talks about mobile, why they're so focused on this deal for mobile gaming, just the amount of money that mobile makes for Activision Blizzard. And when we talk about divestment, which is something that the CMA has suggested, divesting Call of Duty, it just wouldn't make sense because of Call of Duty Mobile and Call of Duty Warzone. I read through that section of Microsoft's response to the CMA, and you can go and check that video out. I streamed it, actually. It was about an hour or so video, and they specifically talk about Call of Duty Mobile and Call of Duty Warzone and Diablo Immortal and all that type of stuff. But here's the tweet. When Microsoft tells CMA Gov UK that the key strategic rationale of this deal is mobile gaming, including Call of Duty Mobile, Diablo Immortal, and it's part of the reason why divestment would hurt so much. This is why mobile accounted for 47% of all of the Activision Blizzard revenues. And it's just a massive number. You can see it right here. This is in their financials that they have publicly released. And as of December 31st, 2022, you can see here the amount of money that mobile makes in terms of their net revenues by platform, where this is in millions of dollars, 948 million for mobile, which is 41%. You compare that to PC and console, which would be console at 24% and PC at 25%. And then we go down here, it's even more. This is for the year ended December 31st, 2021, which would be putting mobile at 47% for that entire year of 2022. 47% of the revenues. That's almost half of the amount of money Activision Blizzard makes. Just crazy, compared to console being at 23% and PC being at 22%. And just to clarify, above this section here that I mentioned previously, that's just for the 3-month period. So for 3 months, 41% of the net revenues. For the entire year, 47% of the net revenues for the mobile side of gaming at Activision Blizzard. It's the biggest part because it's the easiest way to access people through their mobile phones. Everyone has a smartphone essentially where you can play games on. I mean, even if you get some of the cheaper smartphones, you're still able to download and play a lot of these games that Activision Blizzard puts out. So they know that they won't have to work at getting another piece of hardware into people's hands like a PC or a console. They already have everything there. They just now need to release the games. And if they take these extremely popular games, which are probably some of the most popular games on all of mobile gaming, and create their own mobile store, they will have a chance to be able to compete with the likes of Google and with the likes of Apple, and then create more competition in that space too, which again, I think would be better for consumers. So they aren't lying. A lot of people still like to point to the fact that they're talking about Call of Duty so much, and Microsoft has come out and said things like, why are we focusing so much on one IP? For us, it's like, we don't care that Call of Duty is going out to multiple different platforms. Everyone can have Call of Duty. You get Call of Duty, you get Call of Duty, but we want this deal for Call of Duty Mobile. And we go down here, it continues. This remained true even in the 3 months that included Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2's historic launch. Mobile still outperformed either console or PC. This is what we get when gaming is separated by platform. So just insane numbers. And that's why they want this deal for the mobile side of things. But I'm going to leave the video there, guys. Let me know what you think about this stuff with the FTC's market definition and Xbox using that, to the 150 million more players playing Call of Duty, where they got the number from, and then specifically the mobile side of things, the amount of revenues that mobile makes compared to console and PC. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.